TV7. These media broadcasts provide county citizens an opportunity to watch and review our scheduled public sessions. To comply with the governor's proclamation declaring a state of emergency in Maryland and to minimize the person-to-person spread of COVID-19, we ask that citizens now stay home and watch the County Commissioners meeting live on our QAC website at www.qac.org/live. To maintain social distancing, seating will be restricted to invited presenters. If you have any respiratory symptoms such as fever, cough, and/or shortness of breath, please refrain from attending any meeting and notify a healthcare provider. We are screening all meeting participants prior to entering the building tonight. Press and public comments is still encouraged. Citizens can email comments to publiccomment@qac.org. We will accept comments up until approximately 6 p.m. Comments received will be read during the press and public comments time on this evening's agenda. Citizens may also submit written testimony to the County Commissioners by mail at 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland 21617, or by email to QAC Commissioners and Administrator at qac.org. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission President Jim Moran.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to remain standing for a moment of silence for all of our seniors and what they have had to sacrifice during this COVID crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners. We had a 30-minute closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an appointee, employee, or official under Section 3-305B1 of the General Provisions article to discuss personnel. It was a consensus of the board to reappoint Bruce Bariano to a 3-year contract extension as our county lobbyist. So I'll let Bruce know he's been re-upped for a 3-year term.
Sir.
Next, we have the approval of our agenda. The agenda for tonight's meeting, April 14th, 2020, and the regular and closed session minutes from your March 24th, 2020 meeting, along with the Roads Board and Sanitary Commission meeting minutes from your March 10th meeting, were distributed electronically for review. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Now, if you want to go to tab number 2, we have the Department of Public Works, and I believe we have 2 representatives that from Public Works that have some business items tonight. First, it would be,
Shane.
I believe, that we want to convene as the Roads Board. Can Shane Moore
Make a
come in?
motion that we convene as the Roads Board.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, first item is systematic replacement of fleet equipment. Can I get a motion on that?
I move to purchase one Ford 250 1/4-ton pickup from Apple Ford of Columbia, Maryland in the amount of $32,080 via the Maryland State Department of General Services. Pre-established contract MDPPO 001BO 6000195.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So my understanding, if I'm correct, is that these partnerships with the general services, pre-established relationships, and the municipalities are supposed to get a good deal on these trucks, right? I mean, that's kind of the general consensus. We buying power with many municipalities.
Correct.
32,000 for this truck is that a good deal?
Yeah.
With the options listed, yes. I mean, we can certainly get you the actual sticker price if you'd like to see that, if you want to
Oh,
we
those
could
things.
work on getting that.
I mean, they're $50,000, $60,000 vehicles.
Well, I mean, I've seen them range from 33,000 to 80,000. So I guess my question is, for 32, are we getting a base model? You're rolling up the windows?
You're
type
getting
thing?
you're getting a short bid, but we're getting the crew cab, you're getting running boards, 4x4, the snowplow prep package, backup camera, full power equipment, electric windows, electric heated mirrors.
Stop right there. That's good.
Shane, I've got a question. This is just for the public watching us at home. The funding for this comes out of the FY20 capital budget,
Roads Capital,
for
correct.
the roads capital. So that's money that we've set aside for these vehicles and the replacement of these vehicles and other pieces of equipment throughout the year, correct?
Yes, correct.
I mean, I think one thing that all of us commissioners here are well aware of is with this issue with the COVID and businesses shut down, revenues are way off, as we all know that, and we just want to be fiscally responsible. And in buying a truck, it's replacing a 1998 with 103,000 miles on it. I don't have a problem with that. I just think that, I just want the public to understand that this is money that's already been set aside for this purchase. And, I'm going to go ahead and support that.
I mean, the truck is 22 years old.
Is it an everyday truck, Shane?
No, actually, what will happen is with the new truck purchase, we'll go to one of our construction inspectors. His truck will then go to the shop. The shop truck will then go down to replace the actual 561, which it will be sold in gov deals, which is from 1998. So we don't just buy one and replace it. It's usually, you put one and you put it in the top of the fleet that gets driven every day, and then it just gets stepped down to something that doesn't get driven very much. But the truck that's being replaced is actually one of our fuel trucks when we have snowstorms. Among other things, it does other things, but that's kind of its primary, when it's running fuel out and stuff like that for the shop, and it's the models that are older and more miles that aren't used that much, that's where they end up. They're not used as frequent, but we need them when we need them.
All right, well, if there's no other discussion?
Just one of the things I want us to, not with this particular one, but any other vehicles that any of the departments are having that they need to replace vehicles, that we're looking at them with a lot more scrutiny than we have in the past. If we can eke out another year on something, then I think we need to try to make sure that we're doing that. I understand this truck is very aged that's being replaced, so it's a unique situation. But I do want all the departments to realize and the public to realize that that's what we're going to be looking at, because we need to pinch every penny where we can.
Okay, so we're getting ready to vote to purchase one Ford F-250 3/4-ton pickup from Apple Ford of Columbia, Maryland, in the amount of $32,080 via the Maryland State Department of General Services pre-established contract number MD BPO 001B0600195. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. The next item is a deed of dedication for Pearl Creek Estates. Can I get a motion on that?
Motion to have the commission president sign the letter, or the deed, I'm sorry.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Easy enough.
Okay, I think that's all we had for the Roads Board this evening, unless you had any questions for Shane while he's here.
I have a question. Sure. Shane, when we take over a road like that, obviously that adds to our expenses in the future too. Is that all, how much of that is covered by taxes or imposts or anything we get in?
Well, it used to be covered 100% by HUR funding. Now, I'm not exactly sure of the percentage, if you have the note, Todd, of what they currently are bumping up to, but we get a small portion from the state for every mile of road we have. It's a very small road. It'll add something from HUR, but not very much money. In this particular case, this is a paved road, very small residential paved road. I wouldn't foresee us having any costs associated with this for quite a number of years.
Okay, great.
So, Neil, on the HER, what happened with that bill? Does anybody know? Because, well, the bill that,
The HUR?
the one Shane's talking about with the HUR, I don't think the counties were going to get anything, but the municipalities were going to get restored to 100%. And I can't for life of me remember whether that passed or not. We don't get anything at the county level, I don't think, anymore I think we signed off for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, last year.
We're getting
so
about 20%,
we're
but I do
pretty
not
much
know
flat.
I do not know if that got approved for the municipalities or not. I can check on that, let you know.
You may want to circle back with Bruce, because I know he was watching that bill, and that's, so like Centerville and all get restored back to 100% of what they were, so that'll help all them, Queenstown and the likes, so.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Shane, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commission President, I'm going to make a motion that we convene now as a sanitary commission.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, here we go.
Okay, and we have
There we go, the man.
Public Works Director Alan Quimby.
All rise.
Being with the sanitary district all these years, you know, I know how to operate.
There you go. Very good. All right. So this is a Southern Kent Island.
Phase 3, commissioners, actually, it's hard to believe, still hard to believe we're in phase 1, let alone looking at phase 3. This will be the second of 2 design bids for the actual site plan for each of the 335 existing homes, and in this case, there's 4 businesses in Kentmore and Queen Anne Colony. Want to go with the motion, or you want me to come on?
Yeah, you want to go make a motion? Get a motion, please.
I move to conditionally award the bid in the amount of $152,188 for the design of the Ski Phase 3 septic tank effluent tank installation to Earth Data Incorporated, with the condition being the approval of MDE of their efforts to satisfy the DBE goal, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the design contract once MDE approves said effort.
Second. Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So Century Engineering did Phase 2?
Yes.
Did they?
And Earth Data, who got this one, did phase 1.
Right.
And Wallace Montgomery, not even close.
Not hungry enough.
Guess not.
Earth Data, as you know, is in Centerville too, so that's an added
Local.
benefit.
Local.
I look.
Good. Well, good. I'm glad to see we're at phase 3. I'm glad to see this engineering. So, does anybody have any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote for Earth Data. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Simple enough. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
No, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Commissioners. Okay, if you want to turn now to tab number 3, our action items for this evening. We have 13 total, including a couple of desk items. The first one is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 2020 proclamation. Could I get one of you to
Sure.
read
Commissioner
that, please?
Dumanel said he'd be more than happy to read that.
Oh, okay.
Proclamation, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 2020. Whereas sexual assault is an intolerable violent crime and a serious to public health issue that affects millions of individuals each year. And whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment harms our community and can lead to long-term physical and psychological health problems, including chronic pain, headaches, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and sexually transmitted diseases. And whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and impacts families, homes, schools, and workplaces in our community on a daily basis. Whereas child sex abuse prevention must be a priority to confront the reality that 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience a sexual assault before the age of 18, and that youth ages 12 to 17 are 2.5 times more likely to be victims of rape or sexual assault. And whereas on campus, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men are sexually assaulted during their time in college, and 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men will be raped at some point in their lives. And whereas we must work together to educate our community about sexual violence and its prevention, support survivors, speak out against harmful attitudes and actions, and take action to create a safer environment for all. And whereas working to prevent sexual assault in our communities is the best gift we can give to survivors, and prevention is possible when everyone gets involved. And whereas Queen Anne's County supports the experts who work to identify, decrease, and prevent sexual violence and is dedicated to providing services and alternative avenues for survivors to seek proper care and treatment. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month and each day of the year is an opportunity to stand with sexual assault survivors to celebrate progress in combating these crimes and to recommit to reducing sexual violence in Queen Anne's County. Now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, do hereby recognize April 2020 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Queen Anne's County and call this observance to the attention to all citizens. And obviously, that's signed by all 5 commissioners.
Thank you. All right. So.
Staggering numbers.
Yes, sir. So with that being said, we're going to move on to action item number 2, which is another proclamation. And it's going to be character counts, and I guess I'll read this one. Proclamation 20-24. Whereas the Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, at the request of its citizens, declared the county a character counts community. And whereas all citizens have been called upon to embrace the 6 pillars of character: respect, responsibility, caring, citizenship, fairness, and trustworthiness, and incorporate them into their daily activities and to model these traits of good character. And whereas the character counts pillar of the month for April is trustworthiness. And whereas all citizens will incorporate this value in their daily lives by being honest. And whereas all citizens will not deceive, cheat, or steal. And whereas all citizens will be reliable and do what they say they will. And whereas all citizens will have the courage to do the right thing. And whereas all citizens will build a good reputation. And whereas all citizens will be loyal and stand by their family, friends, and country. And now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, do hereby designate the Character Counts Pillar of the Month for April 2020 to be trustworthiness. Signed, the Queen Anne's County Commissioners. All right.
All right, thank you very much, Commissioner.
Moving right
Moreno.
along here.
Okay, action item number 3 on page 3 is a series, 2 property liens for nuisance violations, resolutions 20-05 and 20-06. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve resolutions 20-05, 20-06 to place a lien on each of the properties listed in the County Zoning Administrator's Memorandum dated April 14th, 2020 for nuisance violations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So these dollar amounts, 325, this is what the subcontractors charge in the county to do this?
That is correct.
Okay, so we obviously,
Don't make a profit.
right.
You know, yeah.
So we make, so what happens is we pay them for doing it, and then we put a lien on the property, and then eventually we'll collect our money.
That's correct.
I see. And it's obviously supporting local grass cutting businesses, and we use several different ones kind of on a rotating basis. Is that what we do?
We do, yes.
Okay, perfect.
That's right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would just say, if anybody receives sort of a nuisance violation during these times, we understand what's going on with COVID, and some people are home, and maybe you can't get to some abating the nuisance as quick as possible. But, the county business continues to go on. The county workers are out there doing their jobs. If you get a notice and there's something that's preventing you from being able to act timely to that, just call planning and zoning. They're going to be reasonable with it, so just so people know, we're not looking for nuisances and just, sending these letters out in a vacuum of not understanding what's going on. So if there's extenuating circumstances, just please reach out to the county so we can try to work out a way to remedy that.
And it's my understanding anyway, typically these are reported by neighbors and other people. It's typically not the county out searching for planning and zoning
That's
violations.
right, we're responding to a call that we get from
Right.
somebody.
We're getting a call to come out there.
Correct.
In most cases, so.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, whoops. We are moving to approve resolutions 20-05 and 20-06 to place a lien on each of the properties listed in the County Zoning Administrator's Memorandum dated April 14, 2020 for nuisance violations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, Commissioners, we're going to pause right now. It is 5:50. We have a public hearing scheduled for 5:50, and we're going to have public testimony on our conference call line here. So if you want to turn to tab 6, under presentations, item I, there's some information there about this particular public hearing from Director of Economic Development and Tourism, Heather Tonelli. And this evening, we're going to have Chris Porcarino officiate the hearing tonight.
All right, so this is a notice of public hearing. The County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, Maryland will hold a public hearing on a proposed application to the Maryland Department of Commerce to expand the enterprise zone in accordance with Title V, Subtitle 7 of the Economic Development Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. The expanded enterprise zone will be designated in an area described as the Kent Narrows, containing 198 acres, more or less, of waterfront village WVC zone property in the Graysonville area of Queen Anne's County. The hearing will be held Tuesday, April 14th, 2020 at 5:50 p.m. County Commissioners Meeting Room, Liberty Building, 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland, 21617. Persons who wish to comment on the application may do so at the hearing by following the procedure outlined below. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, but written testimony of any length may be submitted at or before the hearing to the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, Liberty Building, 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland, 21617. Because of the current health emergency, attendance at the public hearing will be strictly limited. The public is strongly encouraged, in lieu of attending the hearing, to view the proceedings on QAC-TV, which will live stream the proceedings. Public comments and testimony can be made by submitting comments in writing or by calling 1-443-819-0696 and entering conference ID 133-052-164 # on the night of the hearing. A map showing the proposed enterprise zone is available for public review prior to the hearing and is posted on the door at the Department of Economic and Tourism Development, 425 Piney Narrows Road, Chester, Maryland, 21617, and available online at www.choosequeenannes.com. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language interpreters and assisted listening devices are available for individuals with disabilities. If such assistance is necessary, please contact Ms. Tina Miles at 410-758-4406 or TDD at 410-758-2126 at least 7 days prior to the scheduled hearing. By authority of the Queen Anne's County Commissioners, Margie Huck, Executive Assistant. This was ran in the Queen Anne's County Record Observer on April 3rd, 2020, and April 10th, 2020, and the ad was run in the Kent Island Bay Times, April 1st, 2020, and April 8th, 2020.
So are you ready for public comment?
We are ready for public comment. Do we have anybody on the line?
Is there anyone on the line that wants to give public comment? Hello? She left him in. Hello? I apologize.
You're showing somebody?
Do you know how many people are on the line?
He said they're not talking.
If you're on the line, make sure you don't have the mute button on.
If you're watching on TV, there's about a 3-minute delay.
There's a 3-minute delay? Is that what he just said?
Right.
Right.
He's just saying, yes, they're not talking. I don't know what to do.
We need Jeopardy music.
Do we know what number they're calling from, that we can maybe call them?
Okay, let's try that. I can probably, I'm sorry.
What's the number?
It's all right.
I have to look at
Don't
my
worry about it.
screen.
It's all good.
We're learning new things.
These go a lot smoother when Pat's in here, that's all I gotta say. It's that new attorney.
That's right. Ruined it all. I just did that to make it feel good.
I moved the Purell because it was blocking your face.
It's product placement.
You want to talk a little bit about the enterprise zone and what it is and while we're waiting, or for anybody who's
We
watching
can
on
ask
television?
Heather to come in if you'd like.
Sure.
Have you called in to speak regarding, okay, and for some reason we don't hear you on there. So let me just do this.
Is that on mute?
I'll have you on my phone, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone, okay?
Orange, is that on mute? Was that, no?
Put near a microphone.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put you by the microphone, okay? Hello? Hello?
That's all right.
Hello?
All right, so I'm
Gone?
here.
Okay. Let's move on. It's all good. That's quite all right. Well,
Just disconnected her. Yeah, hi. Okay, okay, so you're on one now, you can go ahead and speak, the hearing.
Okay. Can I speak now? Can
Yes,
you hear me?
yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, gentlemen.
good evening.
It's Gigi Winley.
Ah, okay. Hey, Gigi, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm here to testify on behalf of the Kent Narrows Development Foundation. And I'll just read the statement. The foundation met on February 25th to consider the enterprise zone. And are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Okay, so the foundation met on the 25th to consider the enterprise zone. Our March 24th meeting was canceled, but we polled our foundation members and wanted to just read this statement. The Kent Narrows Development Foundation endorses the effort from Queen Anne's County to apply to the state of Maryland to expand the enterprise zone in Queen Anne's County. The expanded enterprise zone would be designated in an area described as the Kent Narrows, containing 198 acres, more or less, of Waterfront Village Center, WVC zoned properties in the Chester-Graysonville areas of Queen Anne's County. We understand that the enterprise zone designation will not interfere with the county's ability to issue bonds to support the much-needed infrastructure improvements in the WVC zoning district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's all we have?
Do we have
so-
anybody else
job.
on the
The
line?
only one that was in there.
Okay, so then we'll close the public comment.
There we go. Take it over, Heather.
Okay, just to give you a brief overview of the enterprise zones, we applied and received the designation back in January 2017, and that runs from the area of Stevensville just past Graysonville. And at that time, the Kent Narrows Development Foundation decided that they did not want to be a part of that zoning because they were looking at the TIF opportunities and decided to move that way. Now we have the opportunity to actually expand that zone. So they're a little piece that's missing in the middle. So we're looking to expand our current enterprise zone to include them, which should be beneficial for businesses that are looking to grow and actually do improvements. It would be real property tax improvements. It starts out at 80% of the approved cost and goes down to 30% over 10 years. And there's also job tax credits available through the enterprise zone. We'd like to do this as soon as possible because it appears that this designation may not be available in the future. We did find out that they have extended the deadline, which was supposed to be the 15th, to 2 weeks, or actually 30 days after the state of emergency is lifted. So we have some more time to actually submit the application, but it is ready to go. We feel like it's important for economic development, and it's just another tool that we would have in our toolbox.
I would like to go ahead and make the motion
Yeah, why
to
don't you
proceed
just-
forward with this.
Right.
I see no reason to hold up and allow Heather the time to go ahead and formulate it. So I'd like to make a motion to proceed with the application for the enterprise. Is there a motion?
There's a motion in there. Second page.
Would you like me to read it?
If you got it, yeah.
You got it? Phil?
Okay. A motion that we adopt the resolution as presented and sign the application to the Maryland Department of Commerce requesting an expansion of the Queen Anne's County Enterprise Zone to include 198 acres known as the Kent Narrows and Zone Waterfront Village Center, WVC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Heather.
Heather, thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Phil, and I second.
5-0, Margie.
Yes, it was. Thanks, Heather. Right. All right, okay, moving on back to our action items. If you want to flip back to tab number 3. And we have action item number 4 on page 18. And this is the annual detention center uniform bid. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I
To
move
bid
that
the award to Howard Uniforms for correctional officers' uniforms.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Fire away.
So, I imagine there's probably not somebody here.
Yes.
Lamont is out in
Okay.
the hallway.
Warden's
Okay.
here.
All right. So, looking at these numbers, and I'll wait till our fine warden gets in here. Warden Cook, we've made a motion on the uniform requests, and I just have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
So if you look at Howard Uniforms, which the motion suggests we go with, I took a look at the items that we're purchasing, and it would appear that Howard Uniforms has the best prices when it comes to the sweaters, coats, jackets, and the duty belts. And Lawman Supply has better pricing for the pants, the short sleeve, and long sleeve polos. My question is, do we have to order them all from one vendor, or can we get the polos, short and long sleeve, and the pants from one vendor, and the sweaters, coats, jackets, and duty belts from another vendor?
I would say that can be done. Some of the vendors want as much of the orders as they can get in the, you know, of the items that we order. So it may be if we just order those few from the other vendor, they may not want to,
I got you.
you know, participate.
Did you want him to check into it?
And I can check it, that's no problem.
Before you want to table this till he can check?
Yeah,
into it?
if we can, I mean, if we can table it for our next
Is that a
commissioners
problem for you?
meeting, I
That's not
promise.
gonna be a problem. We're not
If you can get
pressed
that
right
information
now.
back to us, we'll have a vote
I'll
for
get
you.
that back to you very quickly.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, so we'll go ahead.
You'll see when you take a look at
Yeah.
the list that the Howard Uniforms actually has the best pricing. As I said, for the sweaters, coats, and jackets, and those are the high dollar items.
Yeah.
The Lawman Supply is really coming in with some high numbers, but when it comes to the pants, the short sleeve and long sleeve, Lawman has got a much better price than Howard. So if we could do it that way, that would be great. If we can't, I also understand. But if you could look into that and find out if
I
that's
will
possible.
definitely look into it.
Very good. So we'll go ahead and
Thank you.
table that. While Warden Lamont's here, Todd, do we want to go on to his presentation so he can leave and
Yeah.
let some people out of the,
Why don't we do that?
Free some folks out of the
yeah,
We certainly can.
yeah, if that's okay. I mean,
All right, that's fine. If you want to turn then back to tab number 6, item 2, beginning on page 25, is the presentation information for the detention center expansion project. So, Warden, take it away.
Okay. Before I start, I just want to thank the staff of the Department of Public Works. Alan and his group have been very, very good to work with. They have caught on quick about how the process works and what the needs are and demands are of the state concerning these type of projects. And it's been a real pleasure working with them, and I think, you know, we'll get a successful product once we get everything worked out and ironed out. It's still a work in progress. We're still dealing with ATI Inc., who is the architectural firm that we're dealing with. We've gone back and forth with them on certain aspects of the project as far as some of their feelings and recommendations. And then we come back with what I know from experience, what recommendations are coming from other sources within corrections that I interact with almost on a weekly basis. In fact, today we had a teleconference with the Secretary of Public Safety and a number of the counties looking at issues that we're dealing with, primarily with this COVID situation. And through those communications, we've learned quite a bit as far as what others are doing to minimize the issues that we all could learn from. But getting back to this project here, I've highlighted several items that are key, and I think you've read most of those. Primarily, one of the, number one, and I'll concentrate on a few of them. Number one has to do with how the capacity of the facility has been over the years that we dealt with, and that was 148 beds. Under today's standards and qualifications, our facility is rated at 119 beds. So that's one of the key reasons why we must do the renovation and expansion to get us up to today's standards in that relationship. The other matter is the MAT program, and that's medical assistant treatment, which is an aspect that came into being under House Bill 116, which requires us to do more of the treatment for individuals with acute needs, particularly the drug situation, when we're dealing with buprenorphine and some of the CDS drugs, which we have not allowed into the facility traditionally. We are now going to have to do that. It's much more to it than that, but we're going to have to meet those needs. And when we met before the Board of Public Works and the Department of Budget and Management, one of their key recommendations were that we had an adequate medical unit in this construction that we're going to do. And currently our medical unit is essentially a closet right now. We did manage to get our chief medical person a cubicle up in the administrative area to do her additional work, but we still need to improve on that situation because we are dealing with people with acute issues, not only medical, but mental health. And that kind of responsibility, especially with the mental health, is being pushed more on the counties where the treatment is done at the local level instead of going to a state facility. And that's a lot for especially small counties, let alone the larger counties, to manage. But that requirement maintains that all of this must be done at the county level by 2023, all the counties. And I wanted to tell you, one of the discussions we had today had to do with the MAT program, and there were 4 of the larger counties in the state that became the testing grounds for that project. And as of today, Montgomery County was one of the counties that had not received their funding as of yet, and they've been doing the program under their own financial county resources to run their program. St. Mary's County was another county that stepped forward, and I think their health department, where the funding goes, has come in, but due to the COVID issue, that's held them up from moving forward as far as that. I still think there's going to be an issue, and I want to bring that to Commissioner Wilson, who deals with legislation. I know he was very familiar with this MAT bill and had concerns about it, which many of us do, is how they're going to fund future demands, because now there's 6 more counties that they want to come on board. And I believe there's a reluctance in them to do it based on what they've seen with the first 4. And we'll be at the end of the list. I've already told the state we're going to come in last because we're not set up to do that. We'll have to have that program set up physically in the building to maintain that. So that's going to be a concern, just learning from what I've heard from the other counties. Also, food service and kitchen, I think that's another area that needs to be improved upon. Definitely, because we talked about that many years ago when I first came here about a 40-bed operation that now has served well over 140 meals 3 times a day. And we have met with Aramark, our food vendor, to work with us as far as what we felt was needed in that area to maintain the preparation of food. So that's another concern. Female housing. We did make a big move in 2009 to increase the female housing to 20 beds. When we did that, we had based that on projections at the time about the need in the future. Well, as fate would have it, and how judicial operations changed, that turned out not to be adequate, because we've had as many as over 40 some odd females housed with us. And we've had to do some creative work on trying to manage that, some of which we were able to move to other counties to help us keep that number down. So with this unit, the other problem that we had is classification, where you would have somebody in, and I'll just give an example, maybe he had committed first-degree murder, was going to be housed in with a person in there on work release, because we couldn't have enough room to move that work release female to another unit and still have this person in with somebody that's committed a major crime. So we have tried to resolve that by having a ability to classify these individuals in more of an appropriate situation. You know, we have that. Our whole goal, one of the goals that I noted about the female population is to have them separated as much as possible from any contact with the male inmates, because that could be an issue. And the only area where they will definitely see males other than the male officers will be in the booking and processing area when they first come in. And that can't be helped. So that's another area. We talk about booking and intake, and we needed to get together and keep that in a little better situation due to dealing with inmates that come in that are ruly and aggressive, some that have come in that have mental health issues, and trying to manage them when they first come in the door. That could be an issue. When we have a busy day, when you have courts going on, you have new intakes coming in, and sometimes it's like almost a madhouse in there. So we need to design that in a way which can minimize any issues when that comes about. Visiting booths in the lobby. Right now we can only handle 3 visits at a time, and unfortunately we can only have visits on the weekends. We need to expand that to allow for more of an ability for more people to come in to visit with the inmates. It's non-contact, they don't touch each other, they're separated, they're monitored, but still, even at that, we've had at times when we've had a busy influx of individuals that came in to visit, we've had them standing not only in the lobby, but even standing outside waiting to come in. And we need to increase the size of the lobby, evidently, but still improve on the visitation. The other part of that is that would also serve, we'd have some of those booths constructed in a way that we could handle lawyer visits, where the attorneys can come in and have a private visit with the individual, but there's a pass-through that's on that booth that would be closed when we have regular visits, but then the pass-through can be removed or taken up in order for the attorney to pass papers and sign things and do that. So we needed to definitely handle that. The other project that we needed to handle was programs. I have wanted programs so long at that facility, but unfortunately it was never designed to do that, because it was built at a time when folks weren't really looking at programs. They were looking at keeping people in for a short time, getting them back on the street. Now we have to do programs to help folks when they come in. There'll be a certain number of people that we can help to improve their situation when they get back out on the street. It's not going to work for every inmate. Some inmates are so institutionalized, or their situation is such that no matter what programs you try to give them, they're not interested. They're going to go back out and do it their way, whatever that way is. So having programs such as anger management, some basic training skills, how to apply for a job, how to interview females that are there. They need special programs as far as issues, especially if they're abused. Just a number of programs to help them reacclimate themselves when they go back out on the street. And those are just some of the main key items. I won't go into everything, but I think I addressed many of them in the report that I gave you. As I said, when we look at this, I know one of the key interests is the number of beds that we're looking at. Now, I did, at Commissioner Wilson's request, talk to a colleague of mine who was recommended by Mr. Hsu from the governor's office. And I know this individual very well. And we pretty much were on the same thought pattern because of our years in corrections. Both of us have been around a while. I hate to say how many years, but a number of years. And we both kind of figured, and he made a recommendation that we build this facility between 180 beds to 200 bed range. Now, I know we've had the Justice Reinvestment Act, and that has helped reduce populations. However, I don't want to sit here and predict that we'll never get an influx of people that come in that won't test our capacity again. I can't really predict the future as far as that goes. So we looked at that situation, and we looked at permanent beds where we're talking about beds that we would normally put people in different classifications would be 162. That would be the official number of beds that we would have. Now, you're looking at these other numbers over 200. Those are special needs beds. And when I talk about special needs, how we're handling people with medical issues, how we're handling people with mental health issues, how we handle individuals that may be juvenile or from the LGBTQ community, a number of those type of situations. We're going to have to handle those at the local level. We have always been able to send a fair amount of those people to other counties. We help those other counties. We're holding one for Cecil County now to help them out because the particulars of that case require that individual not to be in Cecil County for his own safety. So we help out doing that. Now, there are other people that will come in on the medical issues that we may not be able to move, especially because of behavior. So we would have to keep them in a secure unit or room to themselves. You can call it rubber room, behavior room, whatever the term is. We use the term restrictive housing to catch all. We can't send that person to another county because we're putting a problem on them that they don't need. So that's another reason for special needs beds. We also have these, like we're dealing with the COVID situation now. We will have people that come in with infectious diseases, some diseases that could be transmitted through, not necessarily just COVID, but other types of disease. We need to keep them housed at that location. So those are just some explanations of what we talk about with special needs beds. So we have to definitely plan for that because down the road, the other facilities say we don't have the room, we're going to have to deal with it, and we're going to have to manage it on site. And we have managed a number of individuals, believe it or not, that I don't know how we did it. And we were able to do it and manage them in such a way where even when we were challenged civilly, we were able to beat those civil challenges in court. So we've been able to do that, but it gets harder and harder each time as we deal with these different challenges. So, you know, working with them, the Department of Public Works, working with the engineers on this project, you know, I just wanted to lay out to you why some of these needs are apparent for us because, you know, we're dealing with the same stuff here on the Eastern Shore that they're dealing with in the metro areas. We're having the same issues with the drugs. Our location with 301 and 50 here, a lot of those people are coming through this area, and we're getting some of that comes when the sheriff's out there doing his thing, the state police, even the Centerville Police Department. We're taking those people in and have to contend with that. Through this COVID thing, and let me just say this, we, in agreement with the state, in agreement with the locals, we are not transferring individuals. Does not mean we're not taking in people that are arrested. It means that we're not transferring people from one place to another to help minimize the spread of that issue. That was one of the calls. In fact, I had 2 or 3 calls a day with the state over individuals that have charges here in Queen Anne's that have finished their time in the DOC, as we call it, and they were ready for us to pick them up. But we worked out, I'll use the term deal or understanding with the Secretary of Public Safety that those people would be held there. And because of the circuit court and district court chief judges, they're allowing those individuals, if they have arrest warrants or charges on them, they can go to the court in that jurisdiction and have their case heard, their initial appearances in those jurisdictions if need be. So that helps out. We are not transferring people between the counties right now unless it's a very emergency situation. So we're trying to work in a collective effort here to minimize that spread as best we can, in addition to some of our internal actions. Yes, sir.
So I know you've answered this question before, Warden Cook, and I apologize.
No, sir.
How many beds do we currently have?
We have what we call 148 beds.
148.
Under our original count, yes.
Okay. So with the expansion of the facility, quick math, to get to 207, how many more additional beds?
But now remember, as
59.
59, called 60 new beds?
yeah,
Okay.
and remember
That's
again, as we
a lot of
talk.
this is to come into compliance with
Yes.
state mandates now.
Yes, and that's what we've tried to do is, and also keep the cost down. We're very aware of that. We want to keep that cost down as much as we can, but still we need to comply with some of those mandates from the state.
Okay.
Warden, you mentioned, this is somewhat off topic, but it came in off of what you said about not transferring any inmates because of COVID. Just so the public is aware, right? We have no inmates currently that have tested
Currently, we
positive.
do not. We're fortunate at that
That's why you're not moving around, because we
situation.
don't want to bring somebody in who may have it.
No,
or anything like that.
and a couple other things I'll clarify. There's only one local county, let me stress, one local county that has had some issues. We were talking to that director today on the phone, and she was giving us some tips on how they've tried to manage that. They both had issues with some of the inmates with positives and some of the staff with positives. We have not had that here. We've had some people that we had tested because of certain signs of things. Thankfully, there were no issues there. That's been a godsend so far. We're doing everything we can. We're doing sanitation protocols, the whole 9 yards. And having said, not in the sense of not taking new intakes, we do take intakes that are coming in from police arrests and those type of things. We are still doing that, but we have a protocol. The 14 days, we put them in a separate area. We don't put them in the main population for the 14 days to make certain everything is okay. Have a little bit problem because of limitation with females, but we're doing the same thing with them. And we haven't had a lot of people come in. Thankfully, we've worked with the police. The courts have been very good with us. State's attorney has worked with us. So that's helped keep the numbers down. I think we're probably just around 40 inmates right now in that range today. As I speak for you, I didn't get a chance to get the numbers, but we're keeping those numbers down. But I know eventually we're going to go back to normal, as we call normal, and that will come back up.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ward. Hang in there.
All right, we're doing our best.
All right.
And thank you, Commissioner.
All right, Commissioners, you want to go back to our action items? If you want to flip back to tab number 3. And I believe we are on item 5 on page 22. And that is a letter from Haven Ministries. They are requesting a grant of $10,000 so they can continue their essential services during this public health emergency to operate their resource center, food pantries, and shelters.
What did we give them in our budget? Does anybody recall what we gave them last year?
I move to provide $10,000 to Haven Ministries so they can continue to provide essential service to the citizens of Queen Anne's County.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I will tell you just from talking to Krista Pettit, their resource center where they, people bring and donate clothes. I believe she said they would make, out for that service, they'd make about $3,000 a month. So that's been closed down since March. They've lost that revenue. And in the same time, since the social distancing and everything came into play, they have not been able to have the homeless shelter at the United Methodist Church in Kent Island because the bunk beds and everything, the way it's situated, they're not far enough apart. So they had to move into motels. And they were able to afford that, but now that's been extended. I don't know if she said, forgive me, if the state asked her or someone asked her to extend it through April at the hotel and possibly through May. And that's what this money is going to help backfill so that they're able to do that, because it costs them about $10,000 a month to put these individuals in motel rooms. So that's the main portion of what this money is used for. Any other discussion?
I don't think there's anything that we could do that we wouldn't do for these organizations that are doing backpacks and so on, because this government is not in any particularly good condition to do that kind of stuff itself. Using intermediaries is the best we can do, and any legitimate one that wants something, boy, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and now that you said that, it did remind me that she told me that their food bank service is seeing an an influx of approximately 30%.
Sure, which is
So-
probably,
Yeah. Yeah.
she's lucky that it's only a 30% increase in usage.
But I think we have her now in the Emergency Operations Command.
Yeah, it's
So
gonna be-
she's going to be running for the county.
She was
So
on
if
that
this-
call today.
Right, if this continues to move forward, she will be taking that. Okay. All right, so, like I said, this is, provide Haven Ministries for $10,000 so they continue serving the citizens of Queen Anne's County. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 6 on page 23 is a letter from Chesapeake Bay Environmental Center. They have a resiliency project. They've got a grant for $1 million, and they have a cost share of $424,000, and they are asking for some startup money, a loan of $50,000 to get that project moving forward. And this would be a good project candidate for use of our WIP project monies. So can I get a motion on that?
I move to provide a $50,000 bridge loan to be paid in full upon completion of the grant in mid-2021.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Discussion. What this is Chesapeake Bay Environmental Center, and I believe it's with DNR, got approximately, it's $1 million grant. It's for dredging in the Kent Narrows and one other location, and I can't remember where they were taken, but anyways, the spoils will be coming to Seebeck to help with their road situation. It's to build up both sides of the
Which
roadway.
is underwater.
And raise the elevation of that roadway to get out of the water. So it is an actual WIP project, and it's going to, the $50,000 we will be taking out of our WIP fund to give them, which will be totally reimbursable to us. So naturally, we won't get any interest on it, but they need the monies because how that grant works is work gets done, the contractor bills Seebeck pays the contractor, Seebeck bills the grant. So they need the $50,000 to help the whole process start, and they'll be billing in 50,000 increments, and it's going to take probably a year and a half to, maybe a little bit longer to complete the project, and that's what this is for. So everybody understands that. So any other discussion? Seeing none, we're moving to provide a $50,000 bridge loan to be paid in full upon completion of the grant in mid-2021. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 7 on page 24 is the Visitor Center Lobby Renovation Contract Award, and this is a contract award and a budget amendment for the Chesapeake Heritage Visitor Center's Lobby Renovation Project. We've seen this a couple times.
I motion that we authorize the Director of Economic and Tourism Development to execute the contract with Ion Design for the Visitor Center lobby renovation on behalf of the County Commissioners for the amount not to exceed $69,500.
I don't mean to whine, but, we haven't had a second.
Get a second.
yet.
I'll second for discussion.
Yeah,
Mr. Wilson?
what's wrong with the lobby?
This was a matching grant fund, was it
Yeah,
not?
this was a grant that we received to do the renovation of the lobby to make it more user-friendly, to have some kiosks and some touch screens, more user-friendly for the public interactive lobby renovations. It hasn't been overhauled since we probably did the original build-out.
How is this different than the prior votes we've done on this? This is not the first time that this has come up, right? Did we already vote on?
We did on the design effort.
Okay.
And Ion Design did the design effort. Now we had to go back out for bid for the construction portion
Gotcha.
of the project, and so we have $69,500 in the account left for the actual work. Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Prior to the whole social distancing and this COVID pandemic that we went, I had mentioned earlier in previous commissioner meetings, we actually had 200 visitors in one weekend at that location. So with the weather nice, the Cross Island Trail extension that has been done, and I think that when the restrictions are lifted, I think we're going to find that we're going to get a lot of traffic once again out there, and I just think what this project's going to offer and the improvements it's going to make, word will get out, and we'll have lots of visitors.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, like I said, we're talking about authorizing the Director of Economic and Tourism Development to execute a contract with Ion Design for the Visitor Center lobby renovation on behalf of the County Commissioners for the amount not to exceed $69,500. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's 3-2. So, Mike, the ask, because we're all out of view, Commissioner Steve Wilson, Commissioner Phil Dumino, and Commissioner Moran voted yes. Commissioner,
Jack
excuse me, Jack Wilson voted yes. Commissioner Steve Wilson voted no, and Commissioner Corkerino voted no. Just so the public can't see us. Moving on.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 8 on page 28 is Budget Amendment CC 30 for police recruitment and retention. Can I get a motion on that, please?
Motion to approve CC 30.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 9 on page 29 is Budget Amendment CC 31 Economic Development Incentive Fund. And this provides authority for 2 projects for disbursements that have been approved by the EDIF Board.
Motion to approve CC 31.
CC 31. Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I guess I have a question. What does that leave the balance at?
174.
170?
I thought that's what
Yeah, it says, oh, you're right, it says 178.33. Okay.
Yes, 178.
Very good. So this is workstations and generator and construction costs for Corsica Technologies and $208,000, and purchase manufacturing equipment for Tenek Brewery for $50,000.
Do we know how many employees Corsica Technologies has?
Yes.
300 total, but
Do they really?
Yeah, and they're growing.
they're
Wow,
they're
300?
about 300.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah, I believe this adds 15 more for them, full-time equivalents.
Okay.
Which I think they've already hired.
Yeah, I would say they're probably going to grow even more now. With
Yeah.
social distancing, there's more of a need for what they do.
The
now.
IT is just blowing up. IT world is blowing up with the
That's
Zoom
good.
meetings and all that kind of stuff.
That can bring some high-paying jobs to
Very
here.
good. Yep. So we're voting to approve Budget Amendment CC 31. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No, I mean, I'm
You're a
an
yes?
aye. I'm an aye.
You're an
A
aye.
reluctant
5-0.
aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Item 10 on page 30 is the semi-annual property tax payment service fee. And this is the Finance Office's recommendation that a service fee not be charged for the 2021 tax year.
I move to submit to the Department of Assessment Taxation an approval form for the establishment of county municipal service fees for semi-annual property tax payments and service charge in the amount of 0%.
Second. Any discussion?
We've always done this every year, haven't we?
Correct. Every year we have to do it, so. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 11 is a desk item, federal non-fare revenue for transit vehicles, request to purchase 2 minivans for our Department of Aging, and this is out of an old money account. When I say old money account, this was restricted funds from bus advertising that's been sitting in an account, and this would allow the expenditure of those funds for these 2 minivans for the fleet.
This is all that money can be spent on.
Yes, it is.
I move to purchase 2 2020 Sony Merriman units, Type 2 side entry lowered floor minivans with a manual in-floor ramp for a total of $82,216 through the MTA contract requiring no county funds.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 12 is also a desk item. It is a support letter for a nomination of the Chesapeake County National Scenic Byways as an All-American Road. And this is in conjunction with all the other Eastern Shore counties that have a link of this particular National Scenic Byway in their counties.
I move to sign the Chesapeake Country National Scenic Byways All-American Road nomination letter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Desk item 13, support letter for the county's application to the USDA Rural Business Development Grant to provide a marketing study and rebranding of Queen Anne's County. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I move to sign the USDA Rural Business Development Grant Letter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. And that concludes our action items for this evening. If you want to see, we can go to presentations. We have one final presenter, Mr. Lee Edgar, Chief of Engineering at Public Works for the Kent Island Library project. So Lee is here. Come on in, Lee.
Yes, he is. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Guess this is the one time, Lee, you get to get dressed up in a year, huh?
That's right. Kids asked me this evening, Daddy, where are you going?
He said, I'm free.
That's right.
Could have been worse. You could have said, Dad, are you coming back?
Well, hopefully if this report is well received, I will. This informational item, we wanted to present this to you because the Kent Island Library branch renovation and expansion project is out to bid. As you're aware, we have some grant dollars for this, and there's a tight timetable by which several things must occur in order for the project to proceed. So in advance of likely next month coming in with a recommendation for award, as well as a recommendation that you submit the last letter of certification for the state funds, want to come in this evening to provide you an update regarding the project and even just a little bit of background, kind of a reminder of where this project has been and how it's come together. So touch on a few things. Grant funding. You may recall this project has actually been the recipient now of 3 grant awards. This was through the state. The legislature supports the Maryland County Capital Library grant fund system, which went into place, I think, around FY 12 or 13, and they've been granting grants to local counties lately in the amount of up to about $5 million a year, statewide. In FY 18, Queen Anne's County, for the first time ever, was provided as a grant award in the amount of $325,000. There was, and all these grants are 50-50 match. So if they give us $325,000, we spend $325,000, and that's how it works. So it's up to that amount. We were given that money for design. The project's been under design for a while. We originally had a schematic design a few years ago, and then proceeded with the current design development, which is almost entirely done, and the project's out to bid. We were informed by the state that if we have additional money left over from the design grant, that money may be applied toward construction, so that's a good thing. We received a FY20 grant in the amount of $1 million, which is generally the amount of money that the state has traditionally been awarding these types of projects. And then we requested additional money, FY21, $2.5 million for a total construction grant amount of $3.5 million. One of the last things that the legislature did prior to adjourning earlier was they did approve the budget. The Maryland County Library Capital Grants Fund was fully funded, including the recommendation that Queen Anne's County be given an additional $2.5 million. So in total, Queen Anne's County would receive $3.5 million from the state for construction, as well as the $325,000 for design. Throughout this process, we've gone through the designs, we've certified the design funds. As you recall, cost was something we were concerned about. Our initial schematic design several years ago that the architect prepared for a variety of reasons came in a lot lower than we'd anticipated in terms of when we came to design, the design development, the preliminary numbers were significantly higher than what we had anticipated and budgeted for. As a result, the Departments of Public Works, staff from the library and our grant stewards and the architect, we've worked together to keep the library project within the general budget that the county commissioners have anticipated. So we've sought additional grant monies from the state, so we're looking at $2.5 million coming up in FY21. We scaled back, implemented a lot of value engineering into the design to keep the design such that it was not overly extravagant. It met the needs of what the library was trying to do, but in a very fiscally responsible manner. And now we've put it out to bid. When I last gave you an update a year or so ago and asked that you certify receipt of the $1 million last year, it was saying we're going to put this forth to design and then put it out to bid. Because then when we put it out to bid, that's going to be the true construction cost. Now, the silver lining in the COVID-19 cloud, if there is one, we very much anticipate that it's going to be a highly competitive bidding environment. If there were to be a time to proceed with a capital project of this magnitude, this would be it. That's what we anticipate. Presently, there have been over 40 vendors that have contacted us, registering to express interest in this project, 12 of which are general contractors. And in speaking with several of them at the pre-bid meeting teleconference, they did indicate that they're chomping at the bit for a good, reliable government job, given the economic uncertainties. So we will know next month, but we do anticipate competitive pricing. The last step in this process is going to be certifying to the state that Queen Anne's County is prepared to match the FY21 funds, so that $2.5 million. So presently, we are scheduled to open bids on May the 1st. There is a chance that we may push that back a little time. With a project of this magnitude, there have been a lot, a lot of questions and inquiries. The architect has been clarifying and making some corrections that might be anticipated in the bid documents. It is possible we may extend the bid due date in order to ensure that all the contractors have time to prepare their bids. But we do anticipate either first or second meeting in May, we'll come forth with you with a recommendation regarding the award of that contract, as well as acceptance of the final state funds. So wanted to provide you that update and it open up for questions right now such that we might address any concerns you have or give you more information regarding the project.
Well, I got a lot of concerns that we're doing this project right now. I can't imagine a worse time for it to hit, but let me ask you, is it absolutely the fact that if we don't do it now, we lose the grant?
I can't speak for the state, but I think that's highly likely. Part of the reason why Queen Anne's County is scheduled to receive $2.5 million in FY21, which is 1/2 of the entire $5 million allotment, is that Queen Anne's County has yet to be a recipient of one of these grants. The only project that we've seen in the last 10 plus fiscal years that this grants program has occurred that's near our scope would be Somerset County. They did a library renovation and expansion, and they received approximately $4 million. Otherwise, most of the grant awards that counties are receiving are $1 million or less. That's what we've seen. When the state legislature funds the program, and they give money to the Maryland State Library, it is expected that the Maryland State Library gets the money spent. They don't want to be in a situation where they give money to jurisdictions, municipalities that don't spend it. So in the event that we were to not proceed at this time, there's likely a good chance that the county would be viewed as unreliable in this sense, and the guess is it could be many, many years before we really should come back to ask for money again. And again, I don't want to put words in the state's mouth, but quite often when grants come down, that's what they look at, is to make sure that the money's spent. And
I understand the sense of your point, but I mean, this is a rather extraordinary time in the financing of this county and the state. I just wonder if all those normal truisms are still true.
To the best of our guess, it is, and
Yeah,
we're
I was
also.
just going to say and I don't remember if Jim was there, but Chris and I attended this informational meeting regarding the library expansion. That was the biggest concern that the citizens that were supporting this, and they came out in droves, supporting this expansion of the library, was that if we didn't take advantage of it and make the commitment to those dollars, the state was not going to have them there for us when we needed them, and to commit to $1 million to guarantee that we were going to receive $2.5 million. Obviously, Commissioner Wilson at the time seemed like a no-brainer, and a good investment on our part.
But to Commissioner Wilson's point, and something I guess I'd like to find out about, and I've asked Todd if we could look into it, is, you know, they're projecting $2.8 billion downturn or revenue adjustment at the state level. There's going to be cuts across the board. Those cuts, we don't know where they're going to be at. Maybe they'll be in the library fund. We don't. I know they crafted a budget coming out the gate, but with a $2.8 billion downturn, they're going to have to make some cuts somewhere. So I would like to find out, one, if they are going to cut, what would the cut be? And two, is there going to be any wiggle room for the counties as we adjust what our revenue downturn is going to be able to fund this on the back end? Or are they going to give us an additional year or something like that? I mean, because a lot of this stuff is 30 days past the state of emergency. Well, we don't even know when that's going to end right now. So if that doesn't end until September, October, you don't get, you know, we're going to sit on a bid till October for a contractor that's going to bid it May 1st. I don't, you know, I just see that being, we need to get more answers from the state as to how it's going to work, I think, before you come back next month with these bids, to know, is there any wiggle room in the way that the state's going to handle these grants, and is there any anticipation that they would, you know, scale back the library money statewide for the, you know, this year, just to, as part of the adjustments.
Understood. We will use these next couple weeks to explicitly ask those questions. We have asked some, and in fact, one of the things that came out is FY21, this $2.5 million, how guaranteed is it? And the grant administrator from the state, she says, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have it with me, but she's indicated in writing that essentially the money is virtually guaranteed. The only thing that needs to happen is county commissioners need to certify the matching funds for the $2.5 million. I suspect they will likely tell us, we can't tell you whether or not you will or will not get it until you take the next step and certify the 2.5. I suspect, but I will ask the question and see if I can get something with in writing. Everything that has been communicated to us thus far is that this funding is the $5 million that was budgeted for the capital grants program is fixed, and this is what's going to occur. But to the point of, I know Commissioner Wilson, and you had all asked some questions regarding cost and things before. The library and Public Works staff, we've worked very closely with the architect to keep the design at an appropriate point, as well as working in several bid alternates into the present bid, such that we could deduct or add according to what the budget may or may not permit. So when the bids come in, we will have the latitude to potentially deduct some work or to add some work to keep it within a budget. We'll have a little bit of flexibility to keep it where you may be comfortable.
So are is there, to address Commissioner Wilson's concern, is there any way that this certification that we give can be contingent upon the state funding being there?
I don't.
When we send the certification in that we're going to put our $2.5 million towards the project, can there be a contingency paragraph in there that states providing there isn't the budgetary cuts that eliminate the state's money for the project?
They will likely not provide that. However, keeping in mind too that your letter of certification doesn't necessarily tie your hands to we've already certified last year's $1 million. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that we can't walk away from the table. It's just understood that if we walk away and don't spend the money that they in FY20 said, let's give this to Queen Anne's County, in FY21, let's give this to Queen Anne's County. If we don't take it, it's money that's not spent that could have gone to another project, and the grants program loses that. So
So we're
you
not
aren't-
committing the 2.5 million if we decide we want to walk away.
Right, you're committed in words only.
We're certifying that the commissioners are certifying the 2.5 million for 2021 as part of our commitment. But we could still walk away from it if the financial situation in our county changes.
Correct.
And we lose the state money at that point. We understand we've lost the state money at that point.
Right, at a certain point, if, that's right.
Okay.
And that's where I think it's fair to ask the state, give us past our budget time, because we're not going to have our budget crafted when you come in here next month with these numbers. So I think it's kind of unfair for the state to ask us to certify $2.5 million in a budget we haven't really crafted yet. So again, I would like to ask that question. Is there going to be any leniency in us looking at our budget and saying, no, we don't have $2.5 million in capital money going into 2021 because of X, Y, and Z from the downturn? So to give us to June or July from that standpoint to look at it, because until we physically adopt our budget, we don't know today what we're going to have in our capital budget and where it's going to come from. So
The grants do have a break ground deadline, which presently would be June 30th, the end of this fiscal year. We have put in a request for an extension of that, which we do anticipate would be granted. So you would still, for instance, be able to certify the funds, and if after the budget process, a month or so down the road, you determine that this is really not something that we can be funding, you could walk away from it, right. Need not necessarily be obligated to spend the money. The letter of certification is a certification that we are budgeting this toward this project. It doesn't say that you have to award it.
So here's the rubber meets the road. This project, state funding of $3.5 million. We've always said that we were right around $6 million for county funding. So we're hoping to see a bid come in $9.5 to $10 million. Is that what you anticipate?
We were trying to keep bids around $8 million.
Okay.
Now,
That
my
seems
guess,
better.
we'll see, but I'm cautiously optimistic based on what we're hearing from the general contractors that we will see a very competitive bid. And again, we have alternates and deductions such that once we find the low base bid, we can work from there to scale back or increase according to budget. If it came in at $8 million, the state would be funding $3.5 million and local share would be $4.5 million.
Right.
So as of right now, we're looking at $4.5 million local share.
Okay, so with that being said, is this a one-year project? Is this all going to be in FY21, or is it going to be FY21 and 22?
It will be in FY21 as well as a few months into FY22. We are looking at requesting a very, very modest grant amount of $500,000 in FY22. We won't know about that in any amount of time. The decision would already have to be made, but we are looking into making that application.
The point I'm trying to make is if we go to FY21 and we budget $4 million in FY21 in capital and put the remaining in FY22, that's a possibility?
I believe so.
Okay.
And I will clarify that, but I believe that would work.
And I echo the sentiments here. If the state stays true to their $3.5 million, I'm a yes vote on this. You know, we've done all that we can do. We've beat this number back. I think it's a good project, and anytime I can get 3.5 from the state and we put in less than 5, it's a no-brainer. So you have my support, so make it happen. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Well,
Appreciate
thank
the
you,
update.
and I will see about getting anything we can in terms of further clarification from the state, and we'll see you in May. Thank you. Thank you. Stay healthy.
All right, thanks, Lee.
Todd, we have I know we had Jonathan had his packet on the table.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have one other item. It's not an action item, but in your information section of the book, tab 4, item number 8, is a financial status update that John Seaman prepared, and this was kind of as a result of the governor's press conference from last Friday, so it's a couple pages. It's there for your review. If you want to hear a few things from Jonathan, he's here as well. But it's item 8. It's the last item in the tab 4. It was also a desk item. Should be on your desk there. Yeah, that's it. Also, while John's setting that up, I wanted to mention too that item 7 in the information section of the book is some brief economic statistics and an update from Heather Tonelli that may be of use to you, related to the COVID-19 issues with local businesses and unemployment rates. So that's there as well for informational purposes. All right.
I'm not sure where the clicker is. On the computer? Oh. Okay. All right.
All right, John.
Well, this is the, good evening, Commissioners. This is the first post-COVID attempt to look at what's happening on the revenue side. Last week, the comptroller and using the Bureau of Revenue Estimates did an initial look at what was happening with revenue at the state level. So this is based largely on that. There isn't tremendous amount of data yet as to what's happening, but Bureau of Revenue Estimates is about the best source you can get. They're very, data centered in terms of what's happening with county revenue. So they made a presentation last week with the comptroller, and then the governor followed that up with, a couple announcements based on those revenues. But the loss to the state, primarily from income tax and sales tax, for this current year, FY20, is $2.8 billion projected, which is about 15% of their total budget. But that's really just occurring in the last 3 months. The actual data in terms of withholding loss.
Jonathan, before you go any further, when you say the last 3 months, you actually mean through the end of June?
Yes, correct.
The last 3 months of the fiscal year?
Correct.
So, the public's hearing this and they're thinking, oh my God, we've lost $2.8 billion now. That includes all of May.
Yes.
And all of June.
That's
and that's
projected.
if we stay closed all of May and all of June.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, just
It's
wanted to
based
clarify.
on, that's exactly right. It's based on the governor's executive order continuing through June. He did, if in fact it was, whatever you want to call it, opening up at the end of May, the number was 1.5 billion, as I recall. So the calculation was the 22% of income tax withholding has essentially gone away from that's basically what, the comptroller is getting is withholding taxes, and 22% of that has sort of disappeared in terms of what they're currently collecting. The unemployment claims
John, real quick, while we're still on that 2.8. So when the comptroller came out with his original estimate about a week into this, he had said that the state was losing $108 million a day in revenue because of COVID. So 28 days in, you've lost $2.8 billion. Is that reasonable to think?
28 days in. Well, this 2.8 billion is really intended to be, is really over 3 months.
Right, but I'm saying if his, and I can circle back, I could find the article with it, when it was one of his early estimates at $108 million a day it was costing the state. So at $108 million a day, 10 days, you've got $1 billion.
Yeah, but that might be tax revenue for gas tax. It could be.
It's everything. No, it is. It's the whole
I think
economic hit.
The 2.8 doesn't include some of those other items, right?
Well, no, this is the total state general fund. This actually includes income tax and sales tax, which is the other major loss to the state. So I didn't actually see those numbers, so I guess we'd have to look at it and see.
Yeah, I'll send you the article that it was presented in, because I'm just curious, because this seems like a very conservative number for shutting the state down for what's going to be close to 60 days when it's all said and done.
Well, they have not done a projection that I've seen for FY21. But that was kind of the next step. And there's a conference call tomorrow with the Bureau of Revenue Estimates facilitated by MACO. And I'm hopeful that we'll get some look at what FY21 looks like, because, it's useful to use their numbers as kind of a starting point for us. So the unemployment claims, which are, I would say, quite striking in terms of that this level of 235,000 claims is in about 3 weeks, whereas the last two recessions took 36 to 38 weeks to reach that number of claims.
So, while we're on that one. So let me ask you a question. I haven't been able to find it, but I'm curious about it. So the influx in claims, is it, if you go back to 08, the recession into that, it was a broad range of unemployment. All industries were hit. Have they looked to see, and we know the hospitality industry in general, travel, has been decimated by this. Have we looked to see what percentage of that 235,000, or has the state looked at, to see, okay, is this, instead of being driven across all industries like it was in 08, is this really a large portion of this, the hospitality, which hopefully can rebound fairly quickly? Or is this, because construction's still working. That's why I'm a little skeptical about Lee's hope that we're going to get a great price, is because construction hasn't shut down. So, but in 08, they were hit hard, and they were a major, unemployment factor. So I'm just curious as to what the breakdown is, because hospitality, I feel like, will rebound a lot quicker than back in 08, where we had to build homes again to get that whole market back up. So have they?
I didn't see that, those numbers, but that's useful to look at. I mean, what was sort of suggested by the revenue estimate people was to sort of look at, on a county basis, what are the industries that make up, your sort of demographics. And that's why I kind of looked at this next bullet, in which we do have, and part of the reason we have talked about, what's the impact going to be on the county. We have, a large proportion of government and construction industry, which is not really impacted greatly. But we do have a lot of, and if you look at just the census data, in terms of the percentages, we have a lot of in the accommodations and food services and retail, which are the ones that are hit. But I can't really quantify that at this point, but that would be sort of the next step. And I think they think they can probably help us with that. So I did do a projection for both FY20 and FY21. These are pretty preliminary, but if you look at FY20, I'm suggesting that the loss is about $1.5 million to $2 million below the budget, mainly in income taxes. So one way to look at that is we're already 9 months into the year, so whatever loss we have now is, and the income tax that we've had to date has been extremely high up until this whole thing happened. So
So are you referencing 1.5 to 2 million on our fourth quarter, or you reference that on our
total,
entire year?
go to the next slide if you can see it.
It's for, it's redoing this year's estimated.
It's basically saying if we go back to that number, well, you can't see that very well, but I think you have a handout.
I do.
It's basically, if you look at the FY20 budget, which is $145 million, the next column is the estimated, which is what I estimated previously, and I've dropped that by about $4 million down to $143, so that's about $2 million below the budget. So what I'm suggesting is that based on this revised estimated column, we would be about $2 million short in total revenue for FY20. And that's showing that we do come in then under budget in income tax, which would certainly not have been the case previously. Now, I did FY21, which is, it's kind of hard to say at this point because I don't think we really know how long, things are going to be closed, and a lot of assumptions that would have to go into
Well, just for clarification for the public that sees this, Your budgeted numbers for FY '20 and your revised numbers and what you're now saying is going to be what looks to be $143 million.
Correct.
From a budget of 145 with an expectation of 147 is now we're down to 143. That isn't $1 to $2 million. That's $4 million. And my point is, I understand how you do it, but most people don't do it that way. We were ahead of the game, and we lost what was ahead plus some. So we're losing.
That's true.
We're losing. If that's correct, you're saying we're losing.
I'm saying we're losing 4 million. The only, we've sort of used this 145 number as the budget, and we said that was the number we were going to try to target for FY '21 was to stay at the 145. At least that's been our preliminary
without COVID,
discussion.
you were going to put FY '21 at 150 million almost.
Yeah, you
COVID.
can see this, I call it the approved budget, which it really wasn't, but
Correct. But
was
that's my
close to
point.
150,
Right,
which I'm
so-
saying is now 141.
Correct, but 150, but you have it back at 141.
Correct.
That's what I mean, that's 4 million this year.
Right.
It would have been, 9 million had things worked out, but.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Just wanna
what I'm,
clarify that.
that's what I'm
Right.
projecting. I wouldn't, necessarily hold me to that, but I think, we have until the end of May to try to get a better handle on this, but yes.
Yeah, so, okay, we're strictly looking at revenue here, and we don't know what cost savings on the spending side is to see.
Right.
We still may come out balanced. We may not lose the $2 million. We still
Right.
could very well be,
Correct.
at break even basically across the board. But that next number, and I have to go with Jim, that's a big number, 9 million down, that's the real downturn right there, is 9 million. So almost, 8.5%, 9% basically is the downturn. And and I agree with you. I think that's a realistic number based on some of the other stuff that you're seeing, so.
And it's.
Hopefully it's not there, but it could very well
Yeah,
be.
it's, again, it's mostly an income tax. The other, I think certainly hotel taxes will be down, but that's a pretty minor part of the budget in terms of the big picture, so. So we'll, keep looking at these numbers. We'll have some budget work sessions coming up, actually starting in a couple weeks. And, we'll try to put a budget together by the end of May for next year.
And we've had this discussion already. We are planning on a flat budget. We are planning on using basically the same budget we did for FY '20.
Right.
And removing some items from that to get our number down, which isn't so much panic, but I think it's always easy to add it later than it is to take it away later. So we could always come back, and if the things pick up again and things get back to normal, if there ever will be something called normal, we could always add that back in there. So, I think I'm not
That's
afraid.
true.
I think we're fine. I think we'll be all right, so.
But I fully expect this next budget to be something we've never experienced, which is going to be a very dynamic budget, because it's going to be constantly changing, I think, especially if
Well, Phil's experienced it.
the prognosticators
Phil
are
was
right.
there when they had to do the heavy lifting, so,
Yeah, but I'm saying.
And I think this group can do the heavy lifting.
Oh, yeah.
But I think if we start out low, I agree with you, Jim. Is you start out low and you find a thing, you're going to watch the revenue a lot closer month to month than you would typically where you're just looking at it half a year, full year. Month to month's going to become a lot more critical now to see what the trends are. So.
And the advantage that this group of commissioners has that we didn't have, 6, 8 years ago was the fact that we were handed this by an outgoing set of commissioners. We have good controls in place from the last set and the current set of commissioners now, and 2 years left in the term to see how this affects us. So, with that in mind, I think
The county's been
Jim
planning
said we're in
for
much
this.
better
The county's
shape.
been planning for a downturn and how to weather the storm.
exactly
So we're in a lot
the
better
ability to
position.
plan ahead.
So I guess to put the ease out there, we will not be raising taxes. That's not going to happen, and I've heard rumors about that, but we'll get by with what we've got.
Well, I think now everywhere, every state, every municipality, every county is now in the same mode that we are in. And it all hinges on how long things stay closed, and it's time to get back to work. It's time to see if we can salvage our economy and people's livelihoods. So it's got to be a plan moving forward to put people back to work and off unemployment and get it fired back up again. So, anything else, Jonathan?
No, that's it.
You sure? Okay, very good. Is that it?
That's all we had tonight for business. It is. We have press and public comments. Did we get any press and public comments sent in? We did not?
No press and public comment. With that being said, who would like to go first?
Roundtable?
Jack, you say yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just have one thing. Todd, well, first I want to thank all the citizens of Queen Anne's County for making us one of the lowest percentage COVID-19 positives in the state of Maryland. That's a credit to everybody doing their social distancing and staying at home when they can and being careful when and where they can. And then, Todd, real quick, Centerville, since we're in the library vein, I figured I'd get this because I didn't forget about it, but I was waiting to hear back. But Centerville library doors, have we done anything with those?
We should have asked Lee. I think he has a contractor lined up to fix those doors.
Those doors.
He's been working on that yet, but it's kind of they're an older set of doors, but I will check on the
They're all
status
messed
on
up.
them.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll check
No,
on those.
That's
Yep.
all I got.
When you said that, I thought about that door going, damn. Is that it?
Yeah.
You want to go?
Yeah, well, with the social distancing and a lot of the boards and commissions that we sit on, there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for us to be out and about. I will say that I've had a little bit of experience and the opportunity to witness firsthand some of the programs that we have here in the county when it comes to feeding our citizens with the needs, and feeling very, very good about our community and the way that it's stepping up and helping out some of the folks that have those needs. So for you folks out there that are watching or will be watching later, keep up the great work. And to those organizations and those volunteers that are helping out to feed our community, hats off to you.
Mr. Wilson?
Sure. So I think I noticed in Ms. Tonelli's number that we had 1,000 come unemployed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
1,200.
1,200.
1,200. Which is a lot of people out of income and maybe waiting for checks. And all I can say is, I hope that our food is adequately meeting those needs, and that I don't know if we ought to be checking with unemployment to see whether they're up to date, or is there anything we ought to do? This is not a comment, this is a question for us, that we're really getting those people what they need to keep going. So, any thoughts on that from anyone would be helpful.
Okay. Well, I think that's somebody maybe from finance.
Yeah, maybe, and maybe calling and checking with unemployment, whether they've got a backlog or what.
I think the Department of Labor said
I
that
just wanna
they've
be
added
sure.
people to take the calls in.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
do it
I
all
mean,
that.
They're doing
So
pretty
they've been
well.
ramping up their
We
staff.
I think we are, and Phil, you've been around with Fred McNeil, I've been talking with DiMaggio and McNeil, and it feels like we're handling it, but I'm just...
Well, the numbers keep increasing.
It is going to be increasing.
Each location, one location we had 16 on one day, the next we had 50, then the next time we had 130. So the numbers are climbing, and it's obviously because folks are finding out about it, however they're finding out, or there is a need that wasn't there before.
Well,
Mom and dad both work, and now all of a sudden mom and dad are both unemployed, or at least one of them is. So there's a drastic reduction in income to the household, and they're finding that, in order for us to keep our heads above water, we're having to take advantage of these programs that the county is putting up. So there isn't a day that goes by that there isn't an increase in the number of people we're
You
feeding.
have people whose savings are running out. You have increased layoffs as employers more and more get knocked down by this thing. So it's going to be a steady up ramp on that side, and I just think we all ought to be pretty concerned about keeping up to what we need to do.
So just to pigtail on what you said about unemployment. I've actually done some investigating on my own just to try to find out the time lapse at the time that you file for unemployment and when they're trying to get your benefit checks out to you. And they're saying best guess would be anywhere from 21 to 25 days from the time that you originally became eligible and filed to the time that they anticipate you'll get your first check. So you're at almost a month. You're just 5 or 6 days shy of a month from the time that you file that you're actually going to receive a benefit. So there's that direct reflection of that, what's happening on these food programs and the increase in need for the food. And I know the school system for the backpack program went to just 2 days instead of Monday through Friday and feeding the kids. Feeding the kids and then through the school program and then the local management board's program of feeding them on the weekends, those numbers have increased drastically. And what's happening is instead of doing it Monday through Friday, they've cut back to doing the distribution 2 days a week.
Same amount of food there for the meals for the week.
Same amount of food, but it's and some folks, can't get there in the 2 days that it's being done. And I think what we need to do is talk to some of the decision makers at the school board and why they went that route to just 2 days instead of 5. But limiting the number of days that people can come and actually pick up food is actually hurting the program, at least in my opinion, because what's happening is we're ending up throwing more food away than we should be, than we were before.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Apparently the school board was not informed of that change, and that I think that it seems like there's enough idle people in the system to be able to handle food handouts 3 times a week, and I would really like to see that happen.
What's the status? So my understanding was, kind of the timing was that the federal checks were supposed to kind of be a stopgap for that 21 to 25 day time. Has anybody heard, are those federal checks actually getting out to people now?
Those that
$1,200?
had direct deposits on their tax returns,
Right.
they're starting to come. This week is when they're going to start hitting those accounts that had previously put a PIN number, with their
Right.
direct deposit.
Right.
Those that don't have that, I'm not sure what that process is, but it's definitely going to take longer. So.
Having never been involved with this, I have no idea, are those unemployment checks adequate enough money to keep people fed?
I think the max is $4 right? $4.50 a week, something like that. Does that sound right?
yeah, it's obviously a formula based on income over a four-quarter period from your employer. And then there's a formula calculation that determines based on what you made in those 4 quarters and what you're eligible for. But it's certainly better than nothing.
That isn't an answer to the question.
I think it's a maximum, Stevie. I think there is a maximum that you can get per week. I think it's around
I think it's
$4.50. It's about
I think Jack's
$4.50.
right at $4.50.
Yeah, I think it's around $4.50 a week is the max per person, per adult.
Okay. Commissioner Corcorino.
Okay, well,
Something on a positive note?
But hey, Jim,
Yeah.
real quick though, just to stay in that vein with Stevie's thing, because it is a good question, but the other things I've been hearing is if you have a mortgage and you have credit card debt and all that, reach out to your lenders. They're telling you, reach out to your lenders. The lenders, I know a lot of mortgage companies are doing 6-month forbearance agreements, which, that's great. That gives you 6 months off your mortgage payment through this time. Credit card companies are waiving interest on the credit cards, that kind of thing. So, and don't be afraid to call them. I mean, and stay on the line because they are getting inundated with this. But, I will say this time in this financial crisis, the financial institutions seem to be stepping up to the plate a little bit more than they did in the last one. So, again, don't be afraid to call your lenders and your auto loans or whatever and try to get some arrangements made.
yeah, I think they learned the lesson from last time that it's actually
They don't want
cost-wise for
houses
them.
back.
It's better for them to try to work with
Right.
you to keep you in there.
Exactly.
They don't want to have to take
Don't
anything
need
else.
houses.
They don't need that. It didn't work out for them, so they'll work with you. And they're also hoping that this will be a short-term thing that they can then
Exactly.
pick back up on. So we've been out for about 3 weeks since our last meeting, but we've all been in communication and attending different meetings. mostly by phone for what's going on with the county. So the people know that, you know, the county staff, the director level, they have biweekly calls and are on top of everything. There is a tension sometimes with making sure you get enough information out there so the public knows what's going on, but not inciting a panic. And I think that the county has done a great job on doing that so that people understand that with COVID we have is, while we've done a great job of keeping low numbers, it is countywide. So exercise precautions no matter where you are. In addition to just the families that are being hurt, there are churches that are not in session, so they're not getting donations. The fire departments aren't able to do their fundraisers. So if you have the resources to do that, donate money to charities, local charities, donate money to your fire department. They rely on different fundraising activities that they can't do right now, and they need those resources. So if you have the ability to do that, do that. I think I said in the last meeting, if your kids are in karate or dance or some extracurricular thing that they're not attending now, but you can afford to pay that, because that business might not be there if you don't do that. So if you can do that, please do that to help those businesses continue to go and get food from the local restaurants, takeout. That's a huge help. I want to say something to the kids of the county. They're back to school now, but they're schooling from home, and it's a really difficult thing for them. I got my 3 daughters doing it, and it's very hard on them. They miss their friends, they miss their activities, and it's a different environment because they're learning at home. So parents, great on you for helping them through this. Be supportive to your kids, but you know, on behalf of all the commissioners, kids, you're doing a great job out there. Just do your best. We know you'd oddly rather be in school right now, even though you probably didn't want to be in school before that. But so you're all doing a great job. The parents are doing a great job, and the teachers have done a great job of getting materials together and getting them out to the schools. I know just my kids, some of them, each kid will take a video of doing the pledge and they'll submit it in, and then that will be dispersed to all the kids in the class the next day. Some teachers are doing video chats with their class. There's all different ways that they're trying to work on getting it out there. Getting out paper lessons to those who don't have internet access. Just amazing work that everybody's trying to do, and just commend everybody for that. I think that's, speaking of that, so on the next call with the governor, what I would like to know, we don't know how long this is going to go. If he's going to have this continue longer and summer camps are going to get shut down, I think parents need to know sooner rather than later, because if they need to make arrangements on that. If we say, you know, come end of May, hey, you know, restrictions lift, get back to work, that's great, but not if you have kids who can't be home alone and the parents that have to stay there, or one parent has to stay there. You're continuing that economic impact on them. So if and I hope camps are going to be open, but if they're not going to be, give the parents an opportunity to maybe find a college kid who can come and watch their kids, you know, during the summertime, so that when we get back out there to the new normal, people can actually get out there and be productive. So I think I would like for us to make sure the governor's office is, you know, they may be cognizant of that, but I want them to know that we need to know those answers. I think that's it now.
Thank you. Very good. Well, I'm going to echo what Commissioner Corcorino said about our nonprofits, and especially our churches. You know, nobody's in the pews, nobody's passing the hat. You know, if you have an opportunity or the ability, please go by and you know, help support the churches and our nonprofits, and that's why I'm going to see if I can lean on this group of commissioners one more time. You know, we voted to give CBEC the $50,000 from the WIP money for their loan, which will be paid back. But CBEC is directly affected by the shutdown.
The schools.
Because of all the schools. I mean, thousands of kids come through there, and that is their bread and butter that has now been wiped out of their budget. I mean, it was what carries them all spring long. And they're hurting. And, you know, I think that, you know, sometimes we step in to help some of our nonprofits, and this is one time I'm going to ask to see if anybody here would be interested in supporting, giving them a $10,000 grant, just like we did for, you know, some of the others, but because, I mean, that's an organization I feel is stewards of the Chesapeake Bay and environments and teachers, and you know, they've got great plans, so I'd like to make a motion that we give them $10,000 in grants, if I can get a second on that.
Second.
Okay, very good. Well, with that being said,
I was reading Jim, I'm sorry, I was reading something.
that's okay. That's all right. No, that's all right. I'm
So
just,
who
I wasn't good.
are we giving it to?
CBEC,
Okay,
Chesapeake Bay
okay.
Environmental Center. So, with that being said, I guess I'll take a vote for that. All those in favor of giving a $10,000 grant to Chesapeake Bay Environmental Centers, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. So, Todd, you can take care of that for me? Thank you. The second thing I'd like to talk about is our seniors. Chris, you mentioned the students. I want to drill down to our seniors. High
school seniors.
High school seniors, correct. Never. Yeah, I guess I should clarify that.
I wasn't
What if those are the
You
seniors?
care about all the seniors, but this is the high school seniors.
Our high school seniors. I mean, never and I can't think of another time in history where we've shut down nationwide every school there was. And as we've all gone through high school, and we know that when you're seniors, you're the big fish, the top dog, walking the halls, and they've given up all of their sporting events. They've given up, more than likely their graduation, more than likely their senior prom, and their memories. And what's ironic about this set of seniors is they were born in the shadows of 9/11. So this group of young women and children, or women and men that have grown up in this society have seen a lot. Have witnessed multiple wars, have witnessed, you name it. My hat goes off to them. I'm sorry this has happened. It's not fair, but it's life. And it is a precious lesson, and hopefully that'll help them in their years to come, that they can do this, they can do anything. So hats off to all of our seniors. Now I'm going to talk about seniors. They've been, and I've got a mother, and she's 89, she'll be 89 tomorrow. Happy birthday, Mom. And she's been on lockdown. We take stuff to her, leave it outside, and she picks it up. And that goes for a majority of our seniors in Queen Anne's County. But it works. It works to this point that, we've had, as far as COVID's concerned, we're up to 19 cases. And of those 19, a dozen or so have been cleared. You're cured and have a nice day. And we're down to 7, no hospitalizations, and knock on wood, no deaths. So, our social distancing is working. But I think that people need to, and I hate to be that one guy, but it fits me so well sometimes. I think mainstream media, what sells is fear, and what sells is anxiety, and the sun's going to come up tomorrow. I'm a half glass full, and I think that this has to end sooner or later. This has to end, and I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. And I'm going to move that into our jobs and where we need to go as a county, as a state, and as a country. When you shut something down, that's what transpired here in the United States and in Maryland and our county, you would hope there's a plan to restart it also. If you're going to shut it, let's have a plan to restart it, because, our numbers aren't high. One remedy doesn't work for the state of Maryland, and that's my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for my fellow commissioners. Western Maryland and the Eastern Shore, we have natural boundaries. We don't have high densities. And I think that, we've been under the lockdown for over a month, and we're going to continue on for another 2 weeks. But we need to start looking at what we can do to start bringing these businesses back online. People that live in Queen Anne's County, that work in Queen Anne's County, let's bring them back to work. And, that's one of the things that I'm going to start working on. I'd like to figure out how we're going to do this in a safe manner. Does that mean that, if you're a business that was considered non-essential and there's only 3 people in your office, well, then let's bring them back to work. I'm not talking about pulling all of our restaurants at one time and everybody going back, but let's do it in stages. Let's see if we get an uptick in the virus spreading. But I'd like to see a plan, and I think that twofold, because that bringing people back to work not only gives them hope, gives them revenue, and it helps out the entire county and our state. So
It gets them out of the house.
it gets them out of the house, right? So, that's something that I'd like to hopefully start looking into, and maybe in 2 weeks we come up with a little bit of, well, here's what we can do in Queen Anne's County, and see if the state will go along with us. Because again, you know, if we all look at the numbers, everybody out there looks at the numbers, and everybody looks at the entire Eastern Shore. You know, if you don't live on the Eastern Shore, let's not come to the Eastern Shore for at least a month. But if you live on the Eastern Shore, live your life like you've always lived on the Eastern Shore, and just be conscious of your surroundings. So, you know, I hate to see all of our seniors locked in their homes. You know, we look forward to the day. They're a huge part of our community. They're a growing part of our community. And, you know, I mean, I think everything's worked out extremely well, but we cannot continue to do this for a year. So that's all I'm going to say. I wish everybody a healthy, happy next 2 weeks.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
See everybody in 2 weeks. Thank you.